Hello and welcome to Divine Wisdom Explained, where we unlock the timeless wisdom found in the Bible and apply it to our lives today. If you're looking for deep insights that can help you grow in faith and understanding, you're in the right place. Before we dive into today's incredible story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. Your support allows us to continue sharing these powerful messages with you. Now, let's explore one of the most powerful stories in the Bible, Moses, the Exodus, where God's mighty power and faithfulness shine through, leading his people to freedom. The story of Moses and the Exodus. The story of Moses and the Exodus is one of the most significant events in the Bible, a tale of God's deliverance, obedience, and his promise to his people. It begins with the Israelites, descendants of Abraham, who were living in slavery in Egypt. For generations they had been oppressed under Pharaoh's harsh rule. They cried out to God for deliverance, and God heard their cries. He raised up a man named Moses to lead them out of Egypt to the Promised Land. Moses' early life and calling. Moses was born at a time when the Israelites were suffering under Egyptian bondage. The Pharaoh, fearing the growing number of Israelites, ordered that all male Hebrew children be killed. In an attempt to save him, Moses' mother placed him in a basket and set him afloat on the Nile River. By God's providence, the daughter of Pharaoh found the baby and adopted him as her own. Moses grew up in the royal palace, receiving the finest education in Egypt. But despite his privileged position, he never forgot his Hebrew heritage. One day he saw an Egyptian taskmaster beating an Israelite slave. In a fit of anger, Moses killed the Egyptian and fled to the desert, fearing for his life. In the wilderness, Moses became a shepherd, married a woman named Zipporah, and lived in exile for 40 years. However, God's plan for Moses was far from over. One day, while tending sheep on Mount Horeb, Moses encountered an extraordinary sight, a bush that was on fire but not burning up. As he approached, God called to him from the bush, "Moses, Moses." Exodus 3 verse 4. God told Moses that he had heard the cries of the Israelites and had chosen him to be the one to deliver them from slavery in Egypt. God revealed his name to Moses as, "I am who I am," Exodus 3 verse 14, signifying his eternal existence and his authority. Despite his initial reluctance and fears, Moses obeyed God's call. He returned to Egypt to confront Pharaoh, knowing that the task ahead would be dangerous and difficult. But he trusted in God's promise to be with him. The plagues in Pharaoh's heart. Moses, accompanied by his brother Aaron, went before Pharaoh to demand the release of the Israelites. But Pharaoh's heart was hardened and he refused to let the people go. In response, God sent 10 plagues upon Egypt, each more devastating than the last. The plagues were a display of God's power over the natural world and over the gods of Egypt. 1. Water turned to blood. The Nile River, Egypt's source of life, turned to blood, killing the fish and making the water undrinkable. 2. Frogs. The land was overrun with frogs invading every home. 3. Gnats. The dust turned to gnats and they swarmed everywhere. 4. Flies. The land was infested with flies that plagued the Egyptians. 5. Livestock disease. A deadly disease struck the Egyptian livestock, killing many animals. 6. Boils. Painful boils broke out on the Egyptians and their animals. 7. Hail and fire. A storm of hail and fire rained down on Egypt, destroying crops and trees. 8. Locusts. Locusts covered the land and devoured whatever was left. 9. Darkness. For 3 days a thick darkness covered Egypt, so deep that the Egyptians could not see one another. 10. Death of the firstborn. The final and most devastating plague struck the firstborn of every Egyptian family, including Pharaoh's own son. Before the 10th plague, God instructed the Israelites to mark their doorposts with the blood of a lamb. This would serve as a sign for the angel of death to pass over their homes, sparing their firstborns. This event became known as the Passover, and it was a pivotal moment in the Israelites' deliverance. Despite the devastation of the plagues, Pharaoh's heart remained hard, and he refused to let the Israelites go. But after the death of his firstborn son, Pharaoh finally relented and allowed the Israelites to leave Egypt. The Exodus, God's deliverance. The night the Israelites left Egypt, they were in a hurry. God had commanded them to eat the Passover meal in haste, with their sandals on and staffs in hand, ready to leave at a moment's notice. With the Egyptians pressing them to leave, they gathered their belongings and departed for the promised land. As they left, God led them by a pillar of cloud during the day and a pillar of fire at night, providing guidance and protection. But Pharaoh's heart once again hardened, and he decided to pursue the Israelites. He gathered his army and chased after them, cornering them at the shores of the Red Sea. At this moment the Israelites were terrified. They saw Pharaoh's army approaching, and they thought they had nowhere to escape. But God spoke to Moses, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again." Exodus 14 verse 13. God instructed Moses to stretch out his staff over the Red Sea, and when he did, God parted the waters, allowing the Israelites to cross on dry land. When Pharaoh's army tried to follow, the waters returned, drowning the Egyptians and their chariots. The Israelites were saved, and God's mighty power was on full display. The journey in the wilderness. The Israelites were free, but the journey to the promised land was far from easy. The wilderness was harsh and barren, and the people began to grumble against Moses and against God. They complained about the lack of food and water, forgetting how God had delivered them from Egypt. But God, in His mercy, provided for them. He sent manna, bread from heaven, and quail to feed them, and He brought water from a rock to quench their thirst. God also gave the Israelites the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai, a set of moral and ceremonial laws that would guide their community. The people agreed to follow God's commandments, and Moses spent 40 days and nights on the mountain, receiving further instructions from God. Despite God's provision and guidance, the Israelites continued to struggle with faith and obedience. They often rebelled, and at one point they even created a golden calf to worship, breaking their covenant with God. But through it all, God remained faithful to His promises, continually guiding and providing for His people. The final victory and the promise fulfilled. After 40 years in the wilderness, the Israelites finally reached the edge of the promised land. Moses, however, was not allowed to enter the land himself due to an earlier act of disobedience. He viewed the promised land from Mount Nebo, but God told him that his task had been completed. Before he died, Moses gave a final speech to the Israelites, reminding them to stay faithful to God and to keep His commandments. Moses passed away, and Joshua became the new leader of the Israelites. Under Joshua's leadership, the Israelites crossed the Jordan River and entered the promised land, fulfilling the promise God had made to their ancestors. Morals and lessons from Moses and the Exodus. 1. God is faithful to His promises. The story of Moses and the Exodus demonstrates that God is faithful to keep His promises, no matter how long it takes. God promised Abraham that his descendants would inherit the land of Canaan, and despite generations of hardship and oppression, God fulfilled that promise through Moses and the Exodus. 2. Obedience to God is key. Moses' obedience to God was crucial to the deliverance of the Israelites. Even when he was afraid or unsure, he trusted in God's command. This teaches us that obedience to God, even when the path is difficult or unclear, is essential for receiving His blessings. 3. God provides in times of need. Throughout the Exodus, God provided for the Israelites in miraculous ways, from parting the Red Sea to sending manna from heaven. In our own lives, we are reminded that God will provide for our needs when we trust in Him and follow His guidance. 4. Faith overcomes fear. When the Israelites were trapped at the Red Sea, fear gripped their hearts. Yet, God showed them that faith in His power could overcome even the most terrifying circumstances. We too are called to trust in God's power, even when fear threatens to overwhelm us. 5. Repentance and restoration. Despite the Israelites' rebellion and failure, God remained merciful. When they repented, He restored them. This teaches us that God's grace is greater than our failures. No matter how many times we fall, God is always willing to forgive and restore us when we turn back to Him. Conclusion. The story of Moses and the Exodus is a testament to God's power, faithfulness, and love for His people. It shows us that even in the darkest moments, God is working behind the scenes to deliver and provide for us. Just as He led the Israelites out of Egypt, He leads us through life's challenges, guiding us with His presence, His word, and His promises. Thank you for watching today's video. If this powerful story of Moses and the Exodus has encouraged you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with others. And be sure to hit the bell icon to stay updated on all of our new content. May God bless you with strength and faith as you trust in His promises. Until next time, stay faithful and keep seeking divine wisdom.